عليه حاجات يلا سلازي نزن هجرازياتن أحد سرابيله يمكن عقبة تعلق أي تتوام والكون.
You should come and see. Seeing is believing.
In this program, we bring you the facts from the ground by hearing it directly from the youth that have been building the nation from scratch through the National Service Program, invalidating sanctimonious sermons.
We do it for us, and we don't do it for show off.
Eritrea is located in East Africa, bordered by Sudan in the west, Ethiopia in the south, and Djibouti in the southeast. The nation has a 1,200-kilometer Red Sea coastline across from Yemen and Saudi Arabia, and in its southern tip lays the Bab al-Mandeb Straits, the strategic link between the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea via the Red Sea and Suez Canal.
My first impression of the people is just incredibly friendly, incredibly proud, very, very proud to be Eritrean, very proud to be African.
Really, I just want to thank you all for your generosity and your warmth and your hospitality and making us feel so welcome and so part of your country, of your culture.
These are just a sample of statements by people who have visited Eritrea in recent months. The consensus among all who come and see is that there is a perplexing misrepresentation campaign waged against the people and country that requires careful scrutiny. Investigative journalists, tourists, foreign expatriates, and many others who visit Eritrea immediately sense a sharp contrast between what is reported in mainstream media and the reality inside the country. On some occasions, even US, British, and other diplomats express, although off the record, clear discomfort and embarrassment with their own country's analysis of the situation in Eritrea. After just a short time on the ground, especially if one ventures out of the capital city to remote villages previously inaccessible and underdeveloped due to years of conflict and systematic marginalization, the contrast between what is reported and the reality on the ground become quite noticeable. But few people know that Eritrea considers it possible to escape from this vicious circle, to resolve conflicts through internal dialogue and cooperation, and to attain a high-level, sustainable development. Eritrea's achievements since independence in the areas of health, literacy, education, agriculture, environment, water conservation, roads, telecommunications, construction, and other key infrastructure development have often conveniently gone unnoticed by the mainstream media.
Rarely does Eritrea speak about themselves. You know, they work and work and work, and possibly it's not in the culture or it's not in the practice to show pride of what they've done or to tell the world that they've done this, because most time when you talk to the people, even the local people, they say we do it for us and we don't do it for show off.
This is largely a reflection of the modest and unpretentious culture of Eritrean people, who have grown accustomed to delivering results without much praise and fanfare due to years of imposed self-reliance, necessitated by the world's indifference to the plight. This culture of self-discipline, self-sufficiency and humility was perfected during the 30-year-long struggle for self-determination and independence.
كل جزء بإذنها السمعون بعينها تريان ببيني. نأذنها أتليس ولا 5% حق خون خلي. بعيننا نريجن 100% شوري. أو عين مسيح كان تحت زالي بكماتي. أبز حدا خيلات مسيناهم. أبز خريوم علتي. እትንሳም ድነበሮም ግምትን እትብዝ ጻንሐም ግምትን ናይ ሰማይ ናይ ምድርን ፍልይ ጻንሐ
Having inherited a country that was virtually destroyed after years of occupation and conflict, Eritreans have come to terms with the fact that nation building is a long and complicated process that does not necessarily require applause or validation.
I feel proud of myself to be a part of nation building process because I always say that there's a difference, there's a clear difference between history maker and history receiver.
Mainstream media has often sacrificed history, context, and genuinely nuanced reporting for the sake of expediency.
In the world today, unless you tell your story, somebody will tell it differently.
To be a part of something which will be productive and fruitful at the end of the day, it feels good.
Unconfirmed anecdotes based on hearsay and rumours are presented as facts and used as barometers to explain the vision of this government and to gauge the overall development of the country. It's dishonest to discuss Eritrea's challenges without situating the debate within the larger Horn of Africa's geopolitical significance and context. The government of Eritrea's pragmatic national policy decisions aim at long-term sustainable development that is structured around cooperation with all based on mutual respect and benefit. Self-reliance based on one's reality and needs. Social justice defined as equitable distribution of national resources. And ethnic and religious unity and harmony could be considered as basic pillars of the Eritrean national project. Dependency is strongly shunned at all levels, which is why implementing the country's national project heavily relies on internal strengths and capacities, and complementing that with development assistance and cooperation that is informed by and supports the national project.
National service ንስኻ ሃገር እንተዳልያ ንስ ኣና ኣለኹ ማለት ሃገር ተዘየላ ግን የላን ማለት መጀመርታ ንሕና ኩላህና ተኣኪብና ማለት ሕብረተሰብ ኣሎ ሕብረተሰብ ተኣኪብካ ሃገር ኣው ማለት ንሕና ኸኣኒ ክንህሉ እንተዳ ኮይና ወታ ሃገር ክትህሉዋ ማለት ንሳም ሳለወትካ ንሕና ኣለና ማለት እዩ ተጠቀምትናታ ንኾን ኣብቲ ንሳታ ሃገር ትበሃል ክልል ካብ ክልላ ኮይና ንሰርሕ ማለት ሳንተ ደየላ ዳሞ ወይ
Eritrea's determination to pursue a sovereign political and economic development path is in part due to its protracted struggle for self-determination and independence. What Eritrea has accomplished over the past 24 years, despite many externally driven political and economic challenges, is a breakthrough. The country has mainly relied on its people's strong will and determination to move away from conflict and poverty and to build their nation from scratch.
استفلالي بفلا بزوبازي استفلالي عبيتي مع 4 زغون عبيتي دقاتات سريحلو انتي زعلمه يتلكا كن بمغبي راسنا نمخال زعلمه يو بومتن كرايكا كله زمت زول عامتات ولدتاتنا بزي سكف خنتات مغبي بعلوم كيلوم كنبرخم زخلص روي زغونه تسفالنا ማለት
كل غزي ابتوشت اندحر الله تلوتي انت عينت زلات زلل الله تهاجر انت عينت نتفتتر الله تزمت معبالغ انتيو كون كما يكون زرايك سبتوشتي تهلي خاي كل غزي بعينها خطري لك او نتفلك ايتك تحوس لك.
Young people in many developing countries are often viewed as either victims of poverty, in need of care, or menaces to society that must be tamed. Eritrea's youth seriously challenge this view, and much of this is due to a well-designed national service program that is part of a comprehensive youth development strategy.
National service زيبلا هاجر إلنا. جعلوا قينات قطباوي حرنة خطوة زيت قواي هاجر إلنا. كل جزء كم تتعبطات انترارية خيو فلسفة من أسيات زعات هاجرات قرابتي هنا هالوت تطلعات عايز لزهنا من أسيات مستناي دق معرابة وعالمي هون مستناي زخنا سلطانة كالتيف كان يمهم سالت خلاص لزوله يتهاجر يتميري أنا هاجرن يتحبرت سمنا هاجرن كجوت أزخل قال سرحت كتأتات متزيكيلو ሕብረተሰብ ዋላ እጅጉ ሰብሲቡ ኣብ ናይ ልምዓት ስራሕን ናይ ገዝጋ ስራሕ እንዳሃለዎ ኣእምሮ መንእሰያት ክሰርቁ ዝኽእሉ ከሸፍቱ ዝኽእሉ ብዙሓት ናይ ጎስጓሳትን ሜድያ ናይ ዝተፈላለያ ትካላትን ስለዝህሉ ማዕረሰን ክትወዳደር ነቲ ንሰን ዝውንኖ ሜድያ ብሬክ ክትገብር ናትካ ናይ ባዕልኻ ንኽብርኻ ዘነቓቕሕ ንመንእሰያትካ ዝኹስኩስን ንመንነትካ ድማ ዘኹርዕን ነገራት ክትቃለስ ክትክእል ኣለካ ማለት እዩ።
Having inherited a country in ruins, Eritrea's development program was and remains quite extensive, and the human resource required to implement it is as massive as the program itself.
We have to build something on it. We have to continue building. We have to continue working. And to be a part of something which will be productive and fruitful at the end of the day, it feels good. It feels nice to be part of it. And it feels bad to be not part of it.
The pressing question then became, what better way to meet this human resource need than by harnessing the country's own young and energetic population group? Eritrea's national service program is designed to train, empower, and actively engage young Eritreans in the building of their nation. The argument for the program is that if properly trained and supported, the youth of Eritrea can become an indispensable and integral part of development and nation building.
ሃገራዊ ኣገልግሎት ክህሉ ኣለዎ። ሓንቲ ሃገር ክትህሉ ተኾይና ዱልዱል ብኩሉ ብሱል ዝኾነ መንእሰይ ክህልዋ ኣለዎ። እቲ ሃገር ኣብ ዓወት ክትበፅሕ ተኾይና
ኤርትራዊ ቅብቲ ኮይነስ ከገልግላ ክኽእል ኣለኒ ሃገራዊ ኣገልግሎተይ ክፍፅም ክኽእል ኣለኒ ሽዑ ኤርትራ ካብ ኤርትራ ስለተወለድኩ ዘይኮነስ ልክዕ ታትደልዮ ክገብር ሽውዓነ ክሓትት ታትደልያ ክገብር መጀመርታ ሃገራዊ ጉባኤ ክፍፅም ኣለኒ ማለት እዩ።
ንክልቲኡ ኣብ መዛዚንካ ዝሓለፈ መንእሰይ ዝረኣየ መንእሰይ ግን ዝሃገራዊ ኣገልግሎት ግቡእ እዩ
ክትስራሕ ክትህነት ከምዚ ንሪአን ዘለና ዘብለ ጭልጫ ከተማታት ናይ ምዕራብ ክትከውን ንድሕር ኮይና እታ ሃገር ንሕና ኢና ንሰርሓ
ሃገር እንድሕር ዘይብልካ ኩሉ ግዜ ኣብ ካልኣይ ዜጋ ኮንካ ኢኻ ክትከይድ ማለት እዩ ወይ ፀቕጥለካ ኣብ ልዕሊኻ።
Many countries are now turning to various forms of youth development strategies that include national service programs to tackle the issue of unemployment and to help keep their young population active and out of trouble. This has been significantly more effective in countries that align their national service outputs with national development plans and when the young are engaged in activities that directly contribute to the betterment of their society.
كل ነገር ተወስዶ ዲሲዥን ይኹን ባዕልኻ ሕጅስ ገለ ነገር ፈጥራልካ ኮንፊደንስ ከማን ኣብዚ ሰሪትካ ክትከይድ ትኽእል ኢኻ ብዙሓት ነገር ኣይፈልጥኒ ካብ ትምህርታ ንገዛ ዓይነት ሰብ ነይረ ብሰብ እውን ቀሪበ ኣይፈልጥኒ እተን ዝነበርሃኒ ዋሓዘት ዝፍቀዳ እየን ኣብዚ ምስ መጣሁ ከይልካ ብሰባት ነብር ተማሂረ
An effective youth development strategy helps young people appreciate and realize their capacity and channels their resourcefulness and energy into the reconstruction and development of the country.
እዚኣቶም ኩሎም እንተሪእናዮም ኣብ ሓንቲ መኣዲ እንታይ ኣንፀባሪቖም ባህሊ ናይቲ ካልኣይ ተለማሚዶም ከመይ ባህሉ እቲ ሕብረተሰብ ከመይ ይመስል ሕብረተሰብና እንሕቶም ተረዳድኦም ስእሊ ይወስድ ሓድነት ይፈጥር በይናቶም ብዙሕ ነገራት
ዘይስገር ኩሉ ሰብ ዘስተማቕሮ እቲ ዘይርገፅ ሓቅታት እዚ ባዕሉን ስለ ዝዛረብ ኣብቲ ባዕሉ ዝዛረብ ኣጋጣሚ ክዛረቡን ሕልና ዳሽሚ ይገበርካኒ እዚ ዝበለፀ ሸኖኽ እዩ
In Eritrea's case, national service is designed to enable the youth to become active citizens and participants in the building of their nation. The priority areas for service are often aligned with and determined in relation to the national development priorities identified by government. As such, national service aims to equip young people with the necessary life coping skills to foster their personal and career development, while at the same time enhancing their contribution to community and national development at large.
The facility is to support the college, their graduates, their students for training, hands-on vocational training, research projects, product development, but not only to train and be useful for graduates, but also for farmers, for dairy entrepreneurs in the entire country of Eritrea.
Some of the major sectors that can benefit from national service are education, health, agriculture, welfare, environment conservation, tourism, and infrastructure.
So the opportunity, I mean, it's like blindfolding everybody. So if you are providing free access, and free access at all levels, this is quite a typical example. And to me, after working 10 years, if I look back and evaluate, I think it's a success story.
It is important to note that besides rebuilding a nation, national service in its various forms is also used to tackle the issue of youth bulges and unemployment, a key factor in causing instability.
We are producing quality, relevant, so that this labor force would be sustainable to our development process. Therefore, I would like to tell to those who can say those, they should come and see. Seeing is believing. We are producing outstanding students. So they are our representatives, they are our evidence.
هاجري زازوزوتو my country right or wrong ዝብል حقومي ምክንያቱ هاجري زازوزوتو ይናሕ ይሕፀር ይደልዩ.
The government of Eritrea's integrated development paradigm is built on equal opportunities for all, with a special concentrated focus on rural areas and areas that were previously particularly disadvantaged.
Eritrea's performance on the health MDGs, MDG 4, 5 and 6, and this is not a propaganda, it's not, you know, anything, it's facts.
In practical terms, gradually improving the living standards and quality of life of every Eritrean is at the heart of every policy decision. Eritrea is now one of the very few African countries that will be able to meet many of the Millennium Development Goals. At independence, life expectancy stood at only 49 years. At the last census, it was up to 63, very high by African standards. In 1991, adult literacy stood at between 20% to 30% and only 10% for women. In 2008, it climbed to 65%, and in 2010 to 74%. 2015's realistic goal being 80%.
It shows the figures of where Eritrea has moved, and so having achieved some of the targets for the MDGs even before time.
The creation of a knowledge society where every person is an owner of the development process is perhaps best appreciated by surveying Eritrea's heavy investment in education.
The government of Eritrea has taken seriously the idea for the growth of the economy, constant upgrading, the constant reskilling of staff, reskilling of Eritreans, whether it's a mid-level government manager, whether it's in the commercial sector, whether it's in the private sector.
Education, especially higher education, which includes vocational and technical training, is at the core of the development process.
That the quality is at a higher standard, and of course there can be always room for improvement. It's a new college, but I think these graduates are really top-notch graduates.
In place of one university in the capital city, which could only accommodate relatively small number of students at a time and which limited the scope of practical research and study, today there are 7 institutions of higher learning that are regionally and strategically distributed according to the fields of study that they offer.
We have been in the University of Asmara. We are also working the same staff in here.
If I'm going to have to study financial management, either a different book of University of Asmara and College of Business and Economics of Halhala, well, no. It's the same book that I'm going to learn.
Our graduates would be competent all over the world. Therefore, here, I did not see much problem.
Furthermore, these institutions have guaranteed access to a far larger number of students than was previously possible. education is free for all from primary all the way to university. Many who excel and qualify are even sent abroad, fully financed by the government, to pursue further education in an effort to build the human capacity of the country.
I went to China for my postgraduate studies, and I studied there for a couple of years, and I came back here on July 2013, and thereafter I'm working as a department head of banking and finance in the College of Business and Economics, which is currently located in Halhala.
Developing the human resource capital is a major priority for the government of Eritrea. As such, capacity building and training, as well as knowledge and technology transfer, is built into virtually every sector, including one of the newest sectors in the country, mining.
First of all, the unique thing about Bisha Mine is the first mine in Eritrea. So that gives me the greatest pleasure of being part of the history.
The right solution is for Eritrea for the technology transfer, the know-how and the experience transfer, and then, at some point, the whole operation will be run by Eritrea.
I will give Eritrea A+. No two ways about that.
It's an exemplary result, I think. It happens to be in Eritrea, and that surprises quite a lot of people, but the reality is that we are achieving together a significant success.
ነቲ ዝድለ ዘሎ ሸቶ ክንሃርም ንሕና ከመይ ጌርና እቲ ካልእ ሰብ ዝገብሮ ባዕልና ንገብሮ ከመይ ጌርና ትምፅኦም ዘሎ ዓቕሚ ከመይ ጌርና ናብ ዓቕምና ነሰጋግሮ ዝብል ዕላማ ኣለኒ ኣነ እዚ ከም ሓደ ወርቃዊ ዕድል ገይረ ተፈጥሮ ኣብ ሂወተይ ፕሮሰስ ማይኒንግ ኢንጂነሪንግ ዝበሃሉ ነናቶም ርእሶም ዝፈኣሉ ሴክሽናት ርእሶም ዝፈኣሉ ትሬነራት ኣለውና ኣብ ትሕቲ እዚኦም ኩሎም ነቲ ኤርትራዊ ዓቕሚ ንምምዕባል ተባሂሎም ዝተዳለዉ ኮይኖም
I have experience in South America, and what I experienced here is actually in excess of what I saw there in terms of developing people.
Eritrea remains today, as it has always been, totally against any religious extremism. Eritrea is a secular state, and it does not mix politics with religion. The population has enjoyed centuries of coexistence amongst the two main religions, Christianity and Islam, and the government's policy is to nurture and uphold this unity.
ልክዕ ሓንቲ ሃገር ክትዛረብን ዝኾነ ሓሳባት ከተልዕልን ምእንትና ታረብሓ እያ ትጓዓዝ ንሕና ከም ኤርትራውያን ከዓ ንረብሓና ኢና ንጓዓዝ ከምቲ ቀዲምካ ክትገልጾ ዝፀናሓኻ ኤርትራ ስትራቴጂካሊ ጽቡቕ ሙችእ ዝኾነ ናይ ቦታ ኣቀማምጣ ኣሎ ዛስዋይ ከዓ ዝተፈላለየ ሃገራት ካብተን ዝማዕበለ ሃገራት በዓል ኣሜሪካ ከይተረፍአ ብህግኣ ምክንያቱ ብኩሉ በቀማምጣ ዘለዋ ጸጋታታ ትዛዓበይኻ ጸጋ ናይ ህዝባን ናይ መንእሰያታን
Besides Eritrean modesty, however, there seems to be another sinister reason for the deliberate undermining of all these great achievements.
I recently renewed sanctions on some of the worst abusers, including North Korea and Eritrea. We're partnering with groups that help women and children escape from the grip of their abusers. We're helping other countries step up their own efforts, and we're seeing results.
To end the indefinite national service, limiting it to strictly 18 months as originally envisaged, to stop the militarization of secondary education.
Obviously, an undeniable major challenge concerning national service in Eritrea is its current extended form. The government explains this by Ethiopia's continued belligerence and occupation of sovereign Eritrean lands, and complete disregard for the final and binding agreement signed in 2002.
كلنا نستغلول نستغلول ጸጋታትና خنللي نعن كأنتاي دلين زبل حتى إنا خنملسلن زلنا.
It had been proven time and time again by many credible investigative journalists that there is no support for terrorism coming from Asmara. This is in direct contrast to concocted, trumped-up charges brought before the UN Security Council in defense of the 2009 sanctions.
We were not impressed by the content of the monitoring group report on that, and as I say, there were no special information was given to the members of the Security Council, and we are not aware of how the investigation was going on, how it was concluded, was there a trial. We are not sure of those things.
Dr. Taser Ali, director of the Peace Building Center for the Horn of Africa, quoted in an online article earlier this year, said it best. Eritrea is one of the most misunderstood countries on the whole globe. So why is Eritrea misunderstood? Is it, as mainstream media often claims, for lack of will on the part of the Eritrean government to allow journalists and researchers into the country, or for lack of credible and nuanced analysis that takes past history and current geopolitical context into consideration? You decide.
عبوت قد قدم بيتان وطن